Loretta Lynn, the reigning queen of country music, has been performing and recording for more than 40 years. Her extraordinary life has been filled with great love, abundant fame, and her share of family tragedies. After 2 autobiographies and a movie based on her life, Loretta's story seems to be an open book. But now she will share a secret about her beloved 19th century plantation in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee, where she's lived for more than 30 years. The house, she says, is haunted. 2 of Loretta's children reported encounters with ghosts of Confederate soldiers. Staff members recount incidents with unseen hands playing mysterious games with them. And in her most personal encounter, Loretta Lynn tells of seeing a mysterious young woman who she believes is a spirit in mourning, clinging to her tragic past.
So I go out looking around, and she's standing by the tombstone over in the graveyard.
For the first time, the coal miner's daughter tells of her brushes with what she firmly believes is the haunted history of Hurricane Mills.
Hi, everybody. All of you know about my childhood. I'm Loretta Lynn, so you know all about it and how I was raised and brought up. Butcher Holler is the first place I started singing and rocking the babies to sleep.
It's been a long road from a miner's cabin in rural Kentucky to the gracious plantation at Hurricane Mills, Tennessee, not far from cosmopolitan Nashville, the country music capital. This is the cabin in the eastern Kentucky town of Butcher Holler, where coal miner's daughter Loretta Webb grew up with her parents Ted and Clara and her 7 brothers and sisters. She was born in an even smaller one-room cabin.
Well, if you have to do something, you'll fit in this small one-room cabin. You know, was no big thing to us. And as far as I'm concerned, today it's no big thing. It probably might be to some people, you know, that have never seen a one-room cabin that 8 kids and Mom and Daddy lived in. But that's what we had, and Daddy built it.
As modest as the larger cabin is, moving into it was a great moment for Loretta and her family.
Daddy gives $600 for it. I remember that just as if it was today, because they were wondering if they could ever pay for it. But that's what to give for that house, $600. And that's a mansion to us now. When we moved in there, we thought we was in heaven. You know, us kids thought we were, you know, big shots.
Despite her status as a country music icon, Loretta keeps the memory of those impoverished times alive by maintaining this exact replica of her Butcher Holler home here on her Tennessee plantation.
Now I look at it as small, but back then it looked so big.
The only luxury in the cabin was a battery-powered radio, which was used sparingly.
The Grand Ole Opry on Saturday night. We saved the batteries for that show. I would lay there on Saturday night in front of the radio and go to sleep, and Mommy would cover me up after I went to sleep. And I'd be there the next morning.
The child sleeping in front of the radio could scarcely dream that she would one day appear on the Grand Ole Opry, the most important program in all of country music. Today, Loretta shares both her past and her present with adoring fans who visit the Loretta Lynn Ranch and its attractions each year. That past may have been poor, but it was filled with rich memories.
My life growing up in Butcher Holler was probably some of my happiest days. 'Cause when you're little and you don't know the bad things in the world, you're more happy. And when you get out and you find out what life is all about, it gets to be rough.
Family members say Loretta's mother Clara was gifted with psychic abilities. In one instance, they report she prophesied a mother's greatest fear, losing a child.
My grandmother came down to the ranch one time and she got so frightened she left, and on the way back to Nashville they were asking her what was wrong, and she said one of Mom's children were going to die in that creek.
Clara's prophetic vision came to pass in one of the greatest tragedies of Loretta's life, the death of her son, Jack Benny Lynn. The family says that Clara Webb passed her psychic abilities on to Loretta.
My daddy worked all night in the band near coal mine.
Loretta's daddy, Ted Webb, worked hard in the coal mines, scraping together enough to keep his family fed and clothed. When she was 13 years old, Loretta married Doolittle Mooney Lynn. Do, as Loretta called him, moved a pregnant Loretta far away to Washington State, where she began having children one after another.
I married very young, so it was very hard for me. And I had 4 kids by the time I was 17. And if you don't think that's hard, try it.
Loretta says her mother always seemed to know when her daughter had a problem, even though she lived clear across the country.
When I was out in the state of Washington, I lived out there, Mommy would call the neighbor because we didn't have a phone. Of course, she'd call me Loretta and see if she's okay because I'm worried about her. I had a dream last night. And, you know, that kind of stuff happened. And that's the way it does me, too.
Loretta's life and the lives of those around her continue to be filled with seemingly inexplicable events. Visits many call ghostly and strange happenings. None of it shocks or surprises Loretta.
I take nothing for granted, no.
While Loretta may be hard to shock, those around her are sometimes stunned by the strange developments at her gracious Hurricane Mills home. Surprisingly, many of these happenings have occurred in broad daylight, traditionally considered an odd time for ghostly manifestations. Bright and early one morning, Loretta's longtime assistant, Tim Cobb, entered the empty house and heard the sounds of someone walking from room to room on the second floor.
I was getting very nervous and scared, mainly first because of an intruder.
Tim looked upstairs and saw a mysterious shadow.
The shadow was blocking the light as it passed the doorway. So I never could get a full view to see the outline of a person except for the shadow as it passed the reflection of the pictures.
When Tim went upstairs to investigate, he found the brown bedroom above the stairs empty.
Here he comes, just a flight.
Hello.
What's wrong?
I think that guest was not invited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he said he saw something, he heard something, and I just laughed.
Yep, she said, I told you.
I did, I told
And she
you.
did. But I knew I still had to finish a house because we were opening up down here. And the following day, I had to go in, and it was about the same time. But I was going into the house prepared that I could hear anything. But there was nothing. Not a thing. But I came in to do my work and drop off some things. And it was the first time I did see this. I came into this front entranceway, and the windows were frosted up. And I know it's pretty cold in the house, but we do have a central heat in here. And the entranceway was frosted, so I went over there and thought, I didn't notice any frost outside, but it's frosted on the inside. And it's just this doorway. I checked the bedroom, it's not frosted. I checked the living room, it's not frosted. So, you know, they like the cold.
The brown bedroom is a scene of several reported bizarre occurrences. For a brief while, it was the bedroom of Ernest Lynn, Loretta's son.
Yeah, I didn't like the brown room, but you can go in there about any time and the brown room is cold and there'll be dead flies all in that room. I mean, all around, and there won't be many in the other rooms, but in that room there's always a lot of them. That's what they say about ghosts and stuff, you know, it's cold and flies on the windows and stuff.
Every day in the spring, the windowsills inexplicably fill up with dozens of dead flies. This doesn't happen anywhere else in the house.
The brown room has its own little vibe. Nobody wants to stay in the brown room. Something tragic has happened in that room. We don't know what it is.
Later on, Loretta herself spies a mysterious and grief-stricken woman in white. But coming up first, Loretta finds stardom and learns her plantation is still receiving guests from the Civil War.
When Dew and I bought the Hurricane Mill shirt, it was a mess. And he worked on this house forever to get it ready for me to live in. He put 2 floors in it, and everybody was saying it'll never work. It worked. I love it. Cause if you're looking at me, you're looking at country.
Loretta Lynn's voice is honest, direct, and unassuming. It's brought her all the way from a coal miner's cabin in Butcher Holler, Kentucky, to this beautiful plantation at Hurricane Mills in western Tennessee. Her singing and songwriting gifts have made her a country music icon. Just as her talents are shaped by her past, so too has the Hurricane Mills region been shaped by its history. A history that lives, and many believe, haunts this remarkable place. The plantation house at Hurricane Mills called out to Loretta the first time she saw it.
I looked up and seen the big old white house out here, the Annabella home. I said, I want that house. And at that time, we didn't know the town come with it. And Dew bought the house, and the town come with it. So I said, oh, I don't care, that's fine with me, but I want the house. And he come down, and he went to work on it while I was on the road. He built a new kitchen onto the back. Made it a lot bigger than what it was, but it still looks like the same place. We didn't disturb what was already there.
The town of Hurricane Mills is about an hour's drive west of Nashville. The community dates back to 1814, when Royal Ferguson began farming here. The big plantation house was built by the Hillman family, and the property passed through a series of families who continued to improve it. The plantation, or ranch as it's now called, is a mirror of the history of the South, beginning with the American Indians who fought over this land.
This part of Tennessee was sort of a no man's land, battleground. There was many Indians who lived on the many creeks and rivers in Umphress County.
During the Civil War, the area saw some action.
Most of West Tennessee was pretty much guerrilla action.
Before Loretta bought her historic home, she had a lot of history of her own to accomplish.
My mommy always sang, so I thought everybody sang. I found out, a lot of people can't sing. Well, I didn't know that, and it bothered me so bad that when they'd come to me and said, well, we can't sing. I didn't understand that, because there was 8 kids, all of us sang.
Loretta Lynn recorded her first record, Honky Tonk Girl, in 1960. She and Dew left their 4 children with Loretta's mom, and with nothing but a backseat full of freshly pressed records, they went on the road to Nashville to see if she could land a spot on the Grand Ole Opry, the radio show she listened to as a child.
The Grand Ole Opry is the mother of country music. I mean, it's really important to all country artists, and every artist that sings country music, if they haven't been on the Grand Ole Opry, they will not be satisfied till someone puts them on the Grand Ole Opry. Because after you get to the Grand Ole Opry, you've made it.
In those days, the most important country music program in the nation was broadcast from this building, Ryman Auditorium. Appropriately enough, it was originally a church.
To me, I'd rather sing there than anywhere, because it's got the best sound of any place I think anywhere that I've ever sang.
Loretta's career took off. She had a succession of hit albums, won a loyal following of fans, and became the first woman ever to be named Country Music Entertainer of the Year. You're Looking at Country was a #1 hit for Loretta. Hurricane Mills inspired her.
I come home and I got in my car and I was driving around looking for Doolittle. I couldn't find him, but so I wrote, "You're looking at country," because if you're on the road and you're in towns and stuff, you know you're in country when you come here and you hit the road down there, right? It was absolutely country, woods on each side. So I got to this bottom down here, and it was a great big bottom. And as I looked out over it, there, I think it's over 150 acres, something like that. And I said, "Now you're looking at country." And that's all it took. I grabbed that title right then. And then I wrote one called "I Want to Be Free" the same day. Both of them were number ones.
If your eyes are on me, you're looking at country.
As a rapidly rising country music star, Loretta Lynn found and fell in love with the plantation at Hurricane Mills. In 1966, she made it her home. She also learned about its Civil War history, a history she believes continues to this day.
Some of the ghosts from this house are from the Civil War, and they stayed. Really.
The Union Army was advancing through Georgia. In November of 1864, Major General Nathan Bedford Forrest led a 23-day raid, culminating in a victorious attack on the Yankee supply base at nearby Johnsonville, just a few days' ride from Hurricane Mills. Earlier, there was action on the plantation grounds.
Here at Hurricane Mills, there was a federal stockade. There was a small skirmish or battle in July of 1863 with a loss of a few lives.
We found a lot of heirlooms and a lot of antiques. You know, we have cannonballs from the Confederate soldiers. And they told us at one time the old church house was used for a hospital for bringing the wounded from the different battles here because of the creek and the riverway. You sense a lot of those souls here.
The Southern forces attacked in July of 1863, and unfortunately all we know is there was a loss of lives, but we don't know how many are the result of the battle. Probably the nearby church was used as a place to treat the wounded soldiers, and that's pretty well documented. The church was there before the Civil War in 1861.
Confederate soldiers loom large among the ghost stories at Hurricane Mills. A visitor fishing in Hurricane Creek in broad daylight looked up to see a Confederate officer strolling casually across the old bridge and then disappearing. And in a second accidental encounter, an employee told of taking a sunset walk on the grounds and stumbling on two Confederate soldiers sitting at a campfire, the dead whispering among the living. In those two cases, the living happened upon the ghosts and were more startled than frightened. It remained for Ernest, Loretta's son, to report the Lynn family's first truly scary ghostly encounter. A nighttime adventure that seemed to indicate an intentional haunting by the soldiers.
It was in about 1967. I was in what they call the brown room, and that was my bedroom, and I was already asleep about 2 in the morning. A couple of ghosts and stuff. I just raised up. The room was real cold, and I raised up. There was two guys, and I didn't know who they was.
Terrified, Ernest ran from the room and refused to sleep there ever again.
Ain't no sense in staying in there. Now I moved in that little bathroom. Yeah, I didn't like the brown room.
Coming up, a mysterious preacher teaches Loretta's other son how to pray. But first, chilling reminders of the region's violent past as more family members encounter what they are convinced are ghosts from the Civil War.
First rule and make
You leave, that's how I know you're gone.
Country star Loretta Lynn, her family and staff all say they've experienced encounters with ghosts at her gracious plantation in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee.
I'd like to say to you all that some of the ghosts that's in the big house here are from the Civil War because there was 19 soldiers killed on this side of the house. And my son's already seen the soldiers. I don't want to see more. I've already been through it.
Several family members reported encountering what they claimed to be ghosts of Confederate soldiers. Once again, the scene was the infamous brown bedroom. This time, it was Loretta's eldest son, Jack Benny, just a teenager at the time, who told of having a frightening experience.
My brother, he was laying in bed one night, and he fell over in the bed, and I still had his pants and boots and all on.
And all of a sudden, he feels tugging on the bottom of his shoes. Then he wakes up, and he sees a Confederate soldier pulling on his boots, trying to pull him out of bed.
Slavery was a fact of life on many plantations before the Civil War. Loretta and her family uncovered what they consider evidence that some early owners of the plantation had slaves. Beneath this porch glider lies one of the house's darkest secrets, what Loretta calls the slave pit, a grim basement area with bars and hanging chains. The family believes slaves were chained in this dungeon as punishment.
Me and my girlfriend, I'd come home and dude was out somewhere. I don't know where it was at, but it was like 10 o'clock at night. And me and her was sitting up watching a TV show. And somebody walked across the porch, but they never knocked. And I said, that's weird, because I just heard somebody walk across the porch, didn't you, Sue? And she said, yes. Well, in a few minutes, it happened again. So we went back and we heard the chains down in the slave pit. So I said, well, we don't have to worry about it. I know what it is. I knew it was one of the ghosts that was making us crazy.
Some staff members share Loretta's lighthearted reaction to seemingly inexplicable events. For 20 years, Gay Crowell has worked for Loretta. She's had a few very strange daylight encounters of her own.
We were coming to hang up our red, white, and blue banners off of the balcony after the 9/11. And myself and two other ladies that worked down in the shops. And I came out, closed the door, just like I did the first time I was here. Well, we got the banners all hung up and got ready to go, and we were locked out. We were stuck up here on the balcony with no way down. And I couldn't get the door open. It was locked.
No, you cannot get in. Let me see.
We had to stand up here until I got somebody's attention to come and let us out.
Gay believes a mischievous Hurricane Mills ghost locked the door.
Cannot get in.
Or maybe he thought it was funny. You know, hey, I'll just let these girls stand out here on the balcony for a while.
Less funny was the story of what happened to one of the tour guides who disturbed a framed album cover while speaking to a tour group.
When it comes to me, the ghost is a little bit funny, because I promised them I would keep things the way I put them, and I'd do it up nice. And I started with the albums. And I put the albums on the stairway. And I told the lady that was taking the tours through the house, don't touch the album covers. That's all I said. And I didn't tell her anything else because I thought that was enough. And she went up about 4 steps and was showing people my first album, second album, and all of a sudden somebody hollered, who's that man behind you? And it pushed her down on whoever he was. He's probably Old Man Anderson.
Old Man Anderson is or was James T. Anderson, a former owner of the plantation and the patriarch of a distinguished Tennessee family. He was important in the development of the property. He improved the main house, built the mill, and brought prosperity and electricity to the area. Some think he never left.
I think Mr. Anderson was the one that pushed the guy down the stairs, and I think he's the one that looks after the house.
He's protecting me. Yeah, he knows that I've took care of him. I wouldn't let nothing happen to that house over there. Not as long as I'm living. And now I don't think the kids would either, so I don't think Mr. Anderson's got anything to worry about.
After the incident on the stairs, the staff took special pains not to disturb the photos or albums.
A couple days after the video crew left, as I went on through with the tour, the albums on the wall were all crooked. And the front door would not open. And after messing with it for a little bit, we finally got the door open and we left. My next tour that came up, the albums were back straight on the wall and the doors opened fine. But we could hear someone walking around in the upstairs. After my tour, I ran upstairs to check, and there was no one upstairs, but we had clearly all heard someone walking around. Personally, I believe it was the ghost. We upset the ghost when the film crew was here because we were in his personal space. I did touch one of the albums, and the ghost does not like the albums to be messed with, and he was letting his presence be known. Before I came to work here, I did not really believe in ghosts. I was the type of person I had to see it to believe it. But since working here at the ranch, I definitely believe in ghosts, and the plantation home is haunted, yes.
Loretta was away from her beloved home for long periods of time. During the 70s, Loretta toured extensively, either alone or with singing partner Conway Twitty. The duo recorded many hit songs. Loretta's old bus, the coal miner, now parked in her museum at Hurricane Mills, has 3 million miles on it. Today, she still tours using this modern bus. During those days, her husband Mooney stayed home tending to the plantation and helping to raise the newest additions to the Lynn household, the twin daughters Patsy and Peggy. Like Loretta, they are country singers and today live with their own families in nearby Nashville.
We had our horses here, you know, we rode ponies all the time. Most of them swim in the creek. I mean, it's a wonderful place. It's filled with lots of adventures, that's for sure. So it was a great thing.
Daughter Peggy had a mysterious encounter with a lady in white, an uninvited guest at Hurricane Mills, who several family members report having seen.
Well, Patsy and Peggy, you know, they were just like 2 and 3 years old. And Peggy get up, and she never did talk real plain. She said, "Mommy, last night this old woman come to my bed, and her was real tall with a big old long dress on, went way out in the back, and her hair was way up high." Well, I knew what she'd seen, you know. She'd say, "I'd close my eyes and be real still," so she'd go over to Patsy's bed.
I felt like something was watching me. I woke up and you know how you get that feeling like something is watching you and you're not quite sure what's going on. Well, the bed was right here. And I was in my bed, and I woke up and I looked out into the hallway here, and I saw something coming out of this black bathroom. And I'm watching her, and I'm thinking, you know, is someone staying here? Who is this? What's going on? And all of a sudden, she looks over at me, and she's looking at me. She has absolutely no expression on her face. She was totally emotionless. And it scared me, and I started hollering for Gloria, the lady that has watched Patsy and I for years, and I was hollering, "Gloria, Gloria." The lady takes 2 steps back into the bathroom, and she was gone. She was completely gone.
Coming up, a tragic prophecy comes true. But first, Loretta encounters the mysterious woman in white.
On the next 5...
You know, the families that owned this place up here, Hurricane Mills, they passed away, and they're over in the graveyard there, but they're still here with me. And it doesn't bother me at all, because they're happy that I'm taking care of the place, okay?
The dream home music superstar Loretta Lynn bought in 1966 is in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee. It's on a beautiful plantation, a short drive from the country music capital, Nashville. Today, the Loretta Lynn Ranch is an important Tennessee tourist destination.
When you come to Hurricane Mills, you can go through the old house, you can go through the museum, you can go through the old mill over there. There's gift shops. People can come and camp, and they can horseback ride. They can go swimming in the pond over there, or they can swim in the swimming pool. Just whatever they want to do. They can go down Lover's Lane. You know, that might be good.
Loretta's museum contains memorabilia from her own career, including the original lyrics to her autobiographical song, Coal Miner's Daughter, as well as her many gold records. The museum also has memorabilia from the 1980 movie Coal Miner's Daughter, the film version of Loretta's first autobiography. Sissy Spacek won an Academy Award for her portrayal, launching her career as a serious actress. Tommy Lee Jones played Loretta's husband.
I'm about as old-fashioned as I can be, and I hope you like
But maybe the biggest treat for Loretta's city-dwelling fans at Hurricane Mills is the opportunity to get out and enjoy the pleasures of the countryside.
You don't see no city when you look at me, 'cause the country's all I am. I love running barefooted through the old cornfields, and I love that country ham.
Today, Loretta lives in a new house nearby, leaving the plantation house open to tours of her fans. Sometimes, those fans get a treat during their tours.
My hair looks great.
The plantation at Hurricane Mills changed hands over the years since it was first farmed in 1814. Until Loretta Lynn, the family that previously made the greatest mark on it was the Anderson clan, which bought the property 30 years after the Civil War.
The Anderson family has always been a very prominent family. James T. Anderson and his wife purchased the farm in 1895. In 1896, he constructed the dam and mill.
The electricity from the water-powered generator gave the plantation the first electric light in the county. People would come from all over the region to see that modern miracle. This is one of the original light fixtures. Dick Meadow, who has lived in the region all his life, remembers some of the Andersons buried in this cemetery on Loretta's ranch.
Mr. Anderson was an early entrepreneur. He came to this county in the late 1800s, and he was very active, aggressive farmer. He owned steamships, for example. He had the big mill over here, Hurricane Mills, where they also operated a general merchandise store.
This weathered headstone marks the grave of James Thomas Anderson, the family patriarch. Loretta's assistant, Tim Cobb, had a recent encounter that suggested to Loretta that Mr. Anderson is still at the plantation.
I was stepping off the porch at the house behind and was going to light up a cigarette. I looked up and I saw a man over on the porch of this house. Well, my first reaction is, how did he get in? The place is pretty secure. Then he was gone. He had a white shirt, a dark vest, and, dark trousers. But it was unusual because that's not the type of look I was expecting somebody nowadays wear.
Loretta had an explanation for Tim Cobb, who until then had been a skeptic.
He never believed in it until he saw one, and that really did it. And I said, well, who did you see? And he started telling me what they looked like, and I said, well, you just did see one. You sure did. It was old man Anderson. I just knew. He was the old man that built the house, and he's buried over there in the graveyard. And I know it's him because he's the one that aggravates people when they come around. He's pretty ornery, I think. I'll just watch now. I'll see him tonight. I shouldn't have said that.
Family members, staff, and even tourists claim they have encountered another Anderson, a tragic figure and long dead, the mysterious woman in white.
Oh, I was coming home from on the road, and I seen a woman dressed in white on the balcony. And I knew she was dressed like my coal miner's daughter dress, but I didn't dream that it was a ghost. So I go in the house and I tell Gloria, who's upstairs on the balcony crying. She says, nobody's here but me. I said, Gloria, there's a woman upstairs wringing her hands and crying. There's nobody here but me. So her and I go up. There was nobody there. And I come downstairs and I said, I know I've seen it. So I go out looking around and she's standing by the tombstone over in the graveyard because everybody that was born in this house was buried right over there. So I go over to see her and she was gone.
The Lynns researched the Anderson family and made a chilling discovery.
We found out that she was a young woman who lost her baby at a very young age, who lived here. And I'm totally convinced that she is looking for her child. And I don't believe that she realizes that she or her child is gone. And I think until she finds what she's looking for, she's not going to stop walking those halls, and she's not going to stop circling that graveyard, and she's going to remain in Hurricane Mills until she finds what it is that she's searching for.
John W. Anderson was James T. Anderson's son. He married a young lady by the name of Beulah McMurtry, and they had an infant son born in 1917 who died the same day. Unfortunately, his wife Beulah died only 12 days later.
Infant and mother are buried side by side in the plantation graveyard. Could Beulah Anderson be the lady in white? The Lynn family believes she is. Next, tragedy at Hurricane Mills after a mysterious preacher helps one of Loretta's sons find a better
You know, I guess the ghost that was born and raised here, they're still sticking around. And they still have all the pain and everything that goes with this old mansion, you know. And that's one thing that I've never felt because I always loved it here. And they've never tried to hurt us. They just let us know they're there, and that's all.
Well, I was born to coal miner's daughter.
Singer, songwriter, mother of 6, successful businesswoman, Loretta's many fans understand just how far she's come, how much she's accomplished.
Loretta has some of the most devoted fans that I've ever seen. Loretta's fans believe Loretta is part of their family. She is America's sweetheart. She's not untouchable. It's not unusual to see Loretta out here planting flowers or working in her museum and the tourist catcher. She likes to plant in her garden. She likes to go over there and rearrange over at the museum. She is their family. She just happens to sing.
I love my fans. And this is one of the reasons why I love to sing. Because when you walk on stage, you're loved, and I love them back. I do everything I can to make them happy. Because they paid their way in, and you know, some of the fans, you know, maybe they don't have much money, which I know they don't. And they'll bring their family, and it's a sad situation. Because I've paid for some of them to come in. When they'd tell me, well, I needed $5 more to get in. I've helped them out, and that's been no big problem to me. I probably give them what I was paid, you know, at that time.
A tragedy for Dew and Loretta was the death at age 30 of their eldest son, Jack Benny. Earlier, Loretta's mother prophesied the death of one of Loretta's children, and Loretta herself suffered physically at the time of his death.
When my brother Jack passed away, my mother was on tour, and she went into a seizure. And it was a life-threatening seizure where she stopped breathing, and she didn't remember anything for 3 days during the whole time that my brother was missing, and they found him. She woke up, and the first thing that she knew something was wrong with Jack. My dad came in and he told my mother that my brother had passed away. My mother woke up and she said, yeah, I know it's Jack. She's very connected to everything around her. It's an amazing gift, but it's also an amazing curse too.
Before his death, Jack Benny Lynn had a mysterious encounter with a man who lost his way at Hurricane Mills.
It was a preacher that had been lost. He said, "Do you know where I'm at?" "I don't." And Jack says, "Well, yes." And he said, "I'm Pastor so-and-so. Let's pray." And Jack said, "I don't know how." And he says, "Well, I'll pray and show you how. Then you pray with me." And I didn't know this till we were burying Jack, and it was something that made me feel very good. He said he'd never heard of anybody that prayed a greater prayer than Jack did. So I was real proud, because he died 3 weeks later. And he was going across that darn Duck River down there on horseback. And he fell off. I don't know what happened.
Family members and staff say that the preacher was never again seen in the vicinity. No one knows who he was or where he went. The Lynn family and the staff believe that the ghosts of Hurricane Mills are real, and that they have as much right to be there as the Lynns themselves.
We absolutely believe in ghosts because we've seen them, we've experienced them here ourselves firsthand. And what we've seen are people and spirits that have passed on that still walk through Hurricane Mills. If anyone would like to come and spend the night in Hurricane Mills, they can probably experience them themselves.
I think the Andersons and the Confederate soldiers and the slaves are all a part of the spirits that we experience here at Hurricane Mills.
I do believe in ghosts. I do now. Never thought I ever would, but I have to say I do now.
Living in a haunted house hadn't changed me. It didn't tell me any more than I already knew. I know that things are out there unknown that people don't know about, and they're probably watching us right now and wondering, wouldn't they like to see us? Wouldn't they like to be able to see us right now? I really think when you pass away, I think that you're just on a little different plane, and they can still see and hear, you know, whatever they need to hear or see. I don't think God would let them see or hear any bad things, but they're probably laughing at us right now.
And the ghost of your loved one.
As her legions of fans know, Loretta Lynn's songs say it all. In 1964, 2 years before she ever set eyes on Hurricane Mills, she wrote and recorded this haunted house.
In this haunted house we used to call our home. Each morning finds me crying and alone.
Thank you all for coming and visiting with us, and all the ghosts, because we all have a good time here. Come and see us, okay?